This video is sponsored by Car Vertical. Don't forget to use my promo code HIGHPEAK for 20% off each and every check that you do. Hello and welcome back to the channel. Well, over the years I've owned and driven more E-Class Mercedes than I care to admit, and yet somehow I just keep coming back to them. No, they're not perfect, some rust, some will break down and some ruin your weekend, and yet I still think they offer great value for money. There's just something about an E-Class Mercedes that makes you think, yeah, this is a proper car. They're quite practical, they're quite luxurious, and they're quite versatile. You can buy it as an estate version or a wagon version, or a saloon, or even a coupe, or thinking about it, even a convertible. There's something for everyone. They're not as driver focused or dynamic as a 5 Series, but they ride much better. And to be honest, I think they're a bit classier than the 5 Series. So in today's video, we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to go back over 4 Mercedes E-Classes that I've owned and reviewed, and go through them. Today's video features 3 different eras. You've got the 211, the 212, and the 213. I haven't got any older than that because here in the UK they can be complete rust buckets, but I think these 3 eras offer something for everyone. First up then is the 211. Now this ran from 2002 until 2009, and I think it's one of the best looking E-Classes ever made. Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Today I'm in this 2008 Mercedes E280 CDI Estate, or wagon if you're watching this in the US. This is the W211 E-Class which ran from 2002 all the way until 2009. It had a facelift in 2006 which gladly sorted out some electrical issues. The range started off with the very humble E200, all the way up to the I have more money than sense E500 which had a 5 litre V8, which was later improved to a 5.5 litre V8. There were even a couple of AMG models too, an E55 and then later an E63. If you've ever been to Berlin, the chances are you've been in one of these cars, because they're everywhere, painted in beige, and they're taxis. Most of them have probably got a 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine, which are very economical, but they lack any get up and go. A good compromise between performance and fuel economy is the 3 litre diesel V6. This is the E280 CDI, so under the bonnet is a 3 litre turbo diesel V6, which produces 190 horsepower. You could have also bought it as an E320 CDI, which increased the horsepower to about 220, so you got an extra 30 or so horsepower. They're basically the same engine though, so I imagine with a mild remap you'd get that sort of figure from this engine. I would describe this model though as adequate. It isn't breathtaking, but yeah, adequate's a good word. So if you put your foot down, for example, there's enough power there to get you out of trouble without losing your license. I do think this generation E-Class, especially the estate version, is a great looking car. It has a timeless quality to it, just looks elegant and stylish. The turning circle's excellent on this car too. I expected it to be like a Volvo V70, but in reality it's more like a London black cab. I just want to say a big thank you to today's video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Car Vertical. Now before you hand over any cash for a used car or motorbike, it's really important that you do a thorough vehicle history check. Otherwise you just don't know what you're buying. A car might look okay on the face of it, but until you do a thorough vehicle history check, you really don't know what's lurking beneath. I've been using Car Vertical now for years, and every single car you can see on the forecourt, I've checked using Car Vertical. All you do is head over to carvertical.com and type in the reg or the VIN, and then it produces a very detailed report. So it tells you whether it's ever been stolen, written off, had a mileage rollback, or has outstanding finance on it. In addition to that, it shows you the MOT history, the ownership changes, the spec of the car, the average market value, and a whole lot more. It doesn't just work in the UK either, it works in 35 different countries. So before you complete your purchase of your car or motorcycle, make sure you do a thorough vehicle history check first using Car Vertical. If you use my promo code HIGHPEAK, that's HIGHPEAK all one word, HIGHPEAK, you'll save yourself 20% off each and every check that you do. Or alternatively, click the link below in the video description. Right, enough of that. Anyway, back to the Mercedes. I should probably point out at this stage, if I were in the market for a large German estate car, I would buy a 530 diesel estate, without even considering anything else, but luckily we're not all the same. The E-Class Mercedes does have quite a lot going for it, especially if you find a high-spec model like this. This one's got sat-nav, front and rear parking sensors, keyless entry, keyless start, a power lift tailgate. It's also got quite a good feature. Because this car's got keyless entry, the key just has to be in your pocket, you don't actually have to put it into the ignition. So if you're emptying your bags of shopping out of the boot, and you press the lock button on the tailgate, I'll show you now in this video, it automatically locks the car. So if you're carrying your bags of shopping back to your front door, you would just press that button and walk away from the car. One more thing to mention about the E-Class Mercedes estate is it's possibly one of the most middle-class cars of all time. I guarantee the first owner only shops at Waitrose. They bought the E-Class because they always buy Mercedes, obviously, but they bought the estate in particular because they've got a gîte in the Dordogne region, and all that extra room just comes in handy for all those trips back and forth. They probably dabble in antiques, and the diet consists of mainly red meat and chablis. Anyway, putting that aside, it's a fantastically practical car, this. The boot space is huge. With the rear seats in place, it offers a mind-blowing 690 litres of space. With the seats folded flat, you get nearly 2,000 litres of space back there, which is about 5 litres short of what you get for an Antonov. You could have even bought this as a 7-seater. They offered a third row of seats which faced the opposite way, which you don't see too many of those, to be honest. I think they called it a family pack or something, but they are out there. There's also plenty of room up front, visibility is very good, the A-pillars are nice and thin, there's plenty of room in the back, plenty of headroom, plenty of legroom, plenty of storage, cubby holes. It really is a great family car. It just feels very luxurious. I mean, this is now in its 13th year, and it's still a nice place to be. It's not cutting edge, but it doesn't feel dated either. Like I say, it's a bit timeless, really. It all feels refined and sophisticated. It's a very comfortable car too. More comfortable than a 5 Series anyway. Although it doesn't handle as well, obviously. It does ride quite well though. The seats are nice and soft. You can imagine doing 300 or 400 miles in one sitting in this car and getting out and not feeling tired or exhausted. Performance wise, if you put your foot down, yeah, there's enough power there. Changes gear at about 4,000 RPM. And all of a sudden you're at the speed limit. So you just tap the cruise control. That's what I love about this era of Mercedes. Their cruise control is so easy to operate. It's just this little stalk here. You tap it once and that's it. I also love that when you're driving along in this, you look out over the long imposing bonnet and you can see the Mercedes bonnet ornament. That stick-up Mercedes badge has the ability to turn even the most ardent egalitarian into Audrey Forbes Hamilton. There are a couple of annoying things about the interior though. For example, the positioning of the seat controls. This one has electric seats. Now, they're not on the door card like most Mercedes of this era. They're not on the side of the seat like most other cars. No, they're on the front corner, which is exactly the last place you'd look. They're also not full electric, so you can adjust the backrest and the height and all that sort of stuff from those buttons. But if you want to go forward or backward, you have to use this lever here. In a Mercedes. I mean, really? Another thing, I think you know what's coming, don't you? The cup holder situation is dire. There aren't any, not a single one. That's something that wasn't immediately apparent because I just assumed it would have some until I went to Costa this morning. Ended up with a latte on my lap. I mean, can you imagine the first owner of this car driving through the Pays de la Loire region with a boot full of old tat that he's trying to pass off as antiques? You can't even stop for a café au lait. I mean, what is the world coming to? You could have bought this car with a manual gearbox, but I wouldn't advise it. They're always clunky and they always feel like an afterthought. Most people opted for the automatic. Now, early models came with a 5-speed automatic, which was excellent. That was later replaced with this 7-speed 7G Geartronic, I think they call it, which I don't like. I just think it feels clumsy and easily confused. Let me demonstrate something else to you about this gearbox that I don't like. As you're driving along and making good progress, as soon as you take your foot off the accelerator, it slows down quite dramatically. Watch this. It's like regen braking in an EV. I don't like it, it's weird. Until you get used to that, it can be quite disconcerting. So you're driving along with your foot on the accelerator. As soon as you take your foot off the accelerator to slow down, what you get is rapid retardation. I don't like that at all. And until you master that, it can be quite jerky. Anyway, the same is true of all 7-speed Mercedes autos that I've driven. Just a bit of a weird quirk. It handles alright though. It's not as sporty as a 5 Series BMW, but then it is more comfortable, so that's the trade-off you have to make. Reliability-wise, the engines and gearboxes are strong. The trouble with the early ones were everything in between. They suffered with a lot of electrical issues. It usually wasn't anything that would leave you stranded, but you'd often get some sort of annoying warning message. In 2006, when they launched the facelift, most of those were cured. So if you're thinking of buying one, I would look for a post-2006 model. Cars from 2006 also got more safety equipment as standard, and they also scored 5 stars in the Euro NCAP safety rating. They were fitted with a system called Pre-Safe, which was designed to help you survive an accident. If it sensed you were about to have an accident, it would close the windows, close the sunroof, and then activate the seatbelt pre-tensioners. How that works in a split second is beyond me, something I can't fathom, but that's what they say. All of the engines available were chain driven, so there are no belts to replace. If you service the car regularly, that will last the lifetime of the car. I know this particular engine can suffer from oil cooler leaks, so if you're looking for one, that's something to check for. As always, I'd recommend that you find a good Mercedes specialist and just stick with them. They've got all the computer gear and software and all that sort of stuff to plug in and diagnose any fault. It's often more cost effective to go straight to a specialist than go to just any old independent. Parts aren't massively expensive either, and they're readily available. Fuel-wise, they vary. The small petrols weren't bad. They're alright actually if you're just doing local trips. You'll probably get 24, 25 miles per gallon around town and maybe 38 miles per gallon on a motorway run. But they do feel a little bit underpowered for a car of this size and weight. If you plan on using this car for its intended purpose, i.e. driving cross-country, then you're best off going for the V6 diesel. That will do 28 miles per gallon around town and early to mid-40s on a run. You could have gone for a V6 petrol. Now that will do 22 miles per gallon around town and 32 miles per gallon on a motorway run. If you're considering a V8, then you can expect mid-teens in terms of miles per gallon. Used prices are all over the place. You can pick them up from as little as £1,500, but I would advise against that because you're just buying a problem. If you've got a £5,000 budget, then you're likely to get a decent one. Just watch out for rust on the early ones. Later models suffered less with that, but it was still a little bit of an issue, so look around the wheel arches and the tailgate in particular. I think that's it. Now, I really like the 211, and personally, if you're looking for one, I'd opt for a facelift from like 2008, 2009. I think that's peak E-Class. But if you've got your heart set on something more modern, then check out the 212, which is exactly what we're going to do next. Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Today I'm in this 2011 Mercedes E350 Avantgarde Estate. This is known as the S212 model, and the saloon is known as the W212, and it ran from 2009 until 2016. I recently filmed with a BMW 3 Series Touring, which I thought was the perfect family car for anybody in their late 30s to early 40s. But this made me think, what if you're in your late 50s or early 60s and you're just a little bit too middle class to drive a BMW M Sport Touring? Well, I think this might be the perfect car for you. Especially in this flattering shade of JRG metallic and an interior that can best be described as National Trust approved. The whole car just makes a statement without shouting about it. It's a great all-rounder, this. I think it's a good looking car too. I like the gently flared rear wheel arches. Granted, this colour isn't everyone's cup of tea, but somehow I think it still works. Although it does have the whiff of a do-gooder about it. You can imagine this parked outside the local village hall while the owner's inside offering to give them a hand with the summer fete. But it pulls off that Mercedes thing of looking right in almost every setting. This being a large estate car, the boot is incredibly practical. It offers 695 litres of space, and that's with the seats up. With the seats down, this thing could rival a van. It offers a staggering 1950 litres of cargo space, meaning it's perfect for all those antiques fairs you go to. It's also useful to load up your belongings and drive down to your place in France, like you do every summer. And the rest of the interior is every bit as accommodating. The front seats are big and wide and comfortable, perfect to soak up all those boring miles on those French autoroutes. They're also heated for those chilly winter mornings. They're not as cosseting or supportive as a BMW. In fact, they're typical non-AMG Mercedes seats, in that you feel like you're perched on them rather than sat in them. No matter, they're still comfortable. And with a good padded centre armrest and one more here on the door card, you'll make yourself right at home. You'll be pleased to hear that the radio plays Classic FM and Radio 3, and the font is nice and large, so you don't need your spectacles. It's also very easy to control using this rotary knob. You really can't go wrong. It's a big old car, this. It'll remind you of that old Volvo you used to have, only this has a much tighter turning circle. It'll mean that you only need to do a 3-point turn rather than an embarrassing 5-point turn when you're leaving your local off licence. It genuinely feels like a well-built quality product. I'm sat here at 70 miles an hour and there's not much wind or road noise. The cruise control is incredibly easy to operate. You just lift that stalk and that's it. You don't need to worry anymore. You get front and rear parking sensors, and not only is there an audible tone, there's also a clever little display there, one on the dash for the front and one on the headlining for the rear, so you can see how close you are to the obstacles. You can also drop the rear headrest at the touch of a button. There's plenty of storage inside for your Murray mints, and there's a massive centre console here, which is a perfect place to put your box of tissues. Sadly, there are no cup holders. Then again, you're probably more of a flask person, in which case, it isn't an issue. There's a front storage compartment here, which is handy for your keys, your phone, your wallet, and your Cadbury's mini eggs. It does have a retractable cover, but I fear it's broken. You've got to be careful because it'll have one of your fingertips off. It's a bit like Arkwright's till. I get the impression they might have done that on purpose. Bloody Germans. All of the controls are nice and easy to figure out. I like the controls for the climate control. They're elegant and simple. I like the gauge cluster. You get a proper analog clock, like the one on your mantelpiece. The displays are very easy to read, and it tells you all the information you could possibly wish to know. It even shows the symbol of a little coffee cup when it senses you're getting tired. Quite how that works, your guess is as good as mine. More evidence of EU interference there. Bloody Brussels. In terms of what it's like to drive, it's just effortless. Everything's easy and smooth. It's exactly how Mercedes should drive. The steering wheel's a little bit too big for my liking, and the feel you get through it isn't as good as you get from a BMW 5 Series, but it's not bad. You sit here overlooking the long, imposing bonnet with one eye on your Mercedes bonnet ornament, which will make you feel smug, knowing that you're better than most other motorists. It's all quite imperious, really. It must be said this 3-litre turbo diesel V6 is the best engine to go for if you're planning to do lots of miles. It's just the best compromise. It produces 260 horsepower and it genuinely feels brisk. The way it picks up speed from 40 to 70 is very impressive. Perfect for motorway driving. The road tax here in the UK will set you back £250 a year, and it's capable of doing 0 to 60 in around 6.5 seconds, whilst returning 30 miles per gallon around town and about 45 on a motorway run. Like I always say about the BMW 530 diesel, in the real world, this takes some beating. I filmed with a W212 a very long time ago now. In fact, it was one of my very early videos, so I won't encourage you to go back and watch it because it's quite cringeworthy. But that was an E200 diesel with a 2.1 four-cylinder turbo diesel, and that produced 135 horsepower. And it felt slow. In fact, no, it was dangerously slow. It's about 100 horsepower short of what's necessary to haul a big Mercedes like this. So 260 feels like the right amount. I would honestly advise that you go for at least a 6-cylinder. There are lots of other options to choose from as well. If you want a petrol, the range starts from a 1.6 litre 4-cylinder all the way up to a 6.2 litre V8. So there really is something for all budgets. In the rear there's plenty of headroom, but crucially there's plenty of legroom. You could go on a long family road trip in this with your adult children, although they probably won't be thrilled about that idea. So all in all, it's a very good, usable family wagon. It just feels like a better car than the previous generation E-Class, which I actually think looked better, but this certainly feels like it's been built better. The previous generation E-Class suffered terribly with rust. Thankfully, they've obviously ironed out that issue with this model. There are some other common issues to look out for though. If you opt for this 3-litre diesel V6, it can suffer with oil leaks from the oil cooler. Factor in about £400 to sort that out. That is if your driveway suddenly looks like you've had an old Defender parked there. The estate cars like this have air suspension at the back. And what is it that air suspension does best? Any guesses? It brakes, always. And this E-Class is no exception, so factor in about £350 per side if that starts to fail. You'll know it's on its way out because you'll notice one side or both sides starting to sag, and the whole car will list like the Costa Concordia. The 205 GTI. The diesels can suffer with EGR valve issues and DPF issues. I had that many years ago on an old 2.1 litre diesel and it cost me about £1,000 to sort out. The trouble is, a lot of people buy diesels when they don't really need a diesel. They don't do the mileage, they just drive them around town and they get clogged up. The only real way to prevent that happening is run it on premium diesel and take it for a long, steady run, at least every fortnight. That way it just stops it getting all choked up. I'd also recommend getting the automatic gearbox serviced every 80 or 100,000 miles. It'll just prolong its life. In some of the smaller engined E-Classes you could have had a manual gearbox, but I really wouldn't recommend it. A manual Mercedes just feels wrong, like raisins in a curry. Servicing costs shouldn't be prohibitive. I'd recommend you find a decent local Mercedes specialist. I personally use SPR, who are based in Stockport, who are excellent. I wouldn't bother going to a Mercedes main dealer by the time the car gets to this sort of age. You're just wasting money, in my opinion. Used prices here in the UK start at around £5,000, but for £5,000 you're going to get yourself an early, low-spec, scruffy example with Lufthansa mileage. £7,000 or £8,000 should get you a decent one. For one like this one's an avant-garde with 76,000 miles and excellent service history. This will set you back between 11 and 12 grand. Which I know I use this phrase a lot on this channel, but it's an awful lot of car for the money. And with only 76,000 miles on the clock, there's a lot of life left in it. There are 3 different trim levels. There's the Classic, which will give you nothing but a feeling of disappointment. There's the Elegance, which is a little bit more like it. Or there's the Avant-Garde, which is exactly how Mercedes should be spec'd. You get leather from a cow rather than from a factory. You get heated seats. You get parking sensors, better alloy wheels. So if you're looking for one, I would recommend an Avant-Garde. They later changed the spec names to things like SE, AMG, AMG Sportline. The whole thing just got a little bit confusing. But for the early models, it was very easy to decipher. They facelifted the 212 in 2013, so if your budget would stretch, I would recommend going for a facelifted model. The engines were improved slightly, getting better performance and economy, and the styling was just a little bit neater and sharper. Well, I think that's about it. If you want a big, spacious, practical family estate car with a decent badge, then look no further. If you want something that's fun to drive, then I'd recommend a 530 diesel, but if you just want something that's comfortable to waft around in, then you can't go wrong with this big Benz. So that's the 212 E-Class, which ran from 2008-2009 until 2016, and they're really good cars, particularly that 3-litre diesel. I just think in estate form especially, they're like a Swiss Army knife. They can do it all. Now if your budget will stretch, I'd definitely recommend going for a 213. Now the 213 ran from 2016-17 all the way until 2023. If the 211 and 212 were a bit too old manny for you, then I think you need to check out the 213. The 213 brought the E-Class right up to date. So you get the best tech, you get those nice twin screens, the whole thing just feels very modern and contemporary. It's certainly the easiest of the bunch to live with, but then that does come with a price. Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well today I'm in this 2019 Mercedes E-Class. This model is known as the W213 and it ran from 2016 until the present day, although it did have a facelift in 2020. I bought this recently and it occurred to me this is probably the only generation of modern E-Class that I haven't done a video with. As competent as the E-Class always is, I just always rather have a BMW 5 Series instead. However, this latest model, this 5th generation, is that good. This might have changed my mind. Firstly, you've got the styling. Now, E-Classes of old always seem to be classy and dignified, but they're just not very cool. The Mercedes E-Class, in my mind, has always been a car for the older gent. You know, full of chrome, small wheels, a wishy-washy colour. The kind of car that just looks right parked outside the golf club. I don't think anyone under 40's ever lusted after a silvery blue, middle-of-the-road Mercedes saloon. But this W213 has changed that. This somehow manages to be both classy and cool. Of course, the fact that this is the sporty AMG line model greatly helps. The wheels are beautiful. I love the front grille. I think the rear end's very sleek. I love the headlamps. It's all very confident. In fact, that's a good word to use. The whole car just oozes confidence. It knows exactly who and what it is. Mercedes' saloon car lineup these days is a bit like Russian dolls. They all look very similar. In fact, from a distance, I struggle to tell the difference between a C and an E, or an E and an S. But that's not a bad thing necessarily. But for me, it's the E-Class that's the Goldilocks car. It's the right size package for these tiny European roads. It's sleek and clean and modern, and they've done away with the bonnet ornament, which makes it slightly less Terry and June. This model, for some unfathomable reason, has been fitted with an AMG badge on the boot, which tells us that the previous owner was a big fat liar. In fact, that reminds me, I was chatting with a customer some years ago, and he told me that he just bought a new Mercedes. So I said, oh right, okay, which one? He said, oh, an AMG E-Class. I said, oh right, wow, I love those. The 63. He said, no, the 220 diesel, AMG line. Oh right, so you haven't bought an AMG Mercedes, have you? What he meant to say, I think, was that he had AMG mats. I don't know why people do that, it's embarrassing. Anyway, moving inside the new E-Class, this is where it gets interesting. And in my mind, this is where it overtakes the BMW 5 Series. I've been in lots of new E-Classes over the years, usually late at night as a passenger, when I can't see straight or remember where I live. Let me explain, these cars are very popular with Uber premium drivers. Now when it's late at night and you're trying to get an Uber, a standard Uber, sometimes it just isn't possible because they're all out. But if you pay a little bit extra and go for an Uber Premium, all of a sudden out of thin air, an E-Class arrives and whisks you home. What usually happens next is a series of slurry, mumbled exchanges where I'm trying to compliment the driver on his choice of wheels. Before the usual, can you take me to a McDonald's drive-through, please? I'm a bit peckish. That sort of thing. Only for me to deeply regret it the next morning. Now I know I'm usually in an inebriated state whilst I'm travelling one of these as a passenger, but I'm always impressed. Especially at night, because you've got this lovely mood lighting which you can change the colour of. I love this solid horizontal strip which houses the air vents. It's textured and it's just much more interesting than solid black plastic. I also love this natural wood they've used here. Again, it's just much more interesting than that piano black that everybody seems to use these days. It's all really stylish and sophisticated. It's timeless. And I love this huge infotainment screen which dominates the dash. The quality and the clarity is superb, as is the reverse camera. Okay, the infotainment system's still a little bit fiddly to use, but you do get used to it with time. I also love the amount of room that you get, no matter where you sit. That's mainly thanks to the fact that this 5th generation E-Class is 43mm longer than the previous E. Thanks to the glass roof, you get so much natural light in this car. I mean, without privacy glass, you could almost use it to grow tomatoes in. Straight away I can tell you this is a car that you could do lots of miles in. There is a little bit more road noise than I was expecting. Then again, this particular car has done 96,000 miles in 3 years. It isn't as quiet or refined as the Jaguar XJ that I filmed with yesterday, although having said that, that is in a different class, isn't it? Although I'd say it's no less comfortable. It rides really well, this. The boot is a good size at 540 litres. For the passengers then, the E-Class experience is lovely, but then that's kind of always been the case. It's for the driver where the E-Class experience is usually lacking. Not that they're bad to drive, but they're just missing that little bit extra, that key ingredient which turns a good car into a great one. Now you'll be wondering if Mercedes have found that missing ingredient, that little splash of something which will tempt BMW drivers out of the 5 Series. Have they? Not really. But it is comfortably the best driving E-Class so far. And crucially, if you're sat at a set of traffic lights in your new E-Class and somebody pulls up alongside you in a BMW 5 Series, you're no longer going to be green with envy. So I think really this is as good as it gets. It's a pleasure to drive and a pleasure to be in. Under the bonnet of this one, surprise surprise, is a turbo diesel engine, but it's not the one that you'd expect. Mercedes have done away with their old prehistoric 2.1 litre turbo diesel engine, which was a bit coarse and a bit antiquated, and they've replaced it with this 2 litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel, which is much smoother and more refined. This particular one puts out 188 brake horsepower. So if you plant your foot into the carpet, it's quite adequate really. It doesn't exactly pin you into your seat, but that is already at some serious speed. This is, I suspect, the engine that everybody will plump for, because it's the best all-rounder. It's capable of 40 miles per gallon round town, close to 60 on a motorway run, and it's cheap to tax. It wins on all fronts. There's also a 6-cylinder turbo diesel if you want a bit more oomph, or there are loads of petrols to choose from. The petrol range starts from a 1.6 litre 4-cylinder petrol all the way to a big V8 found in the tyre shred in E63. There's even a hybrid model too, in case you live in California. Gearbox wise, for a short period until 2018, you could buy the E200 as a manual, but that isn't something that I'd recommend. I've always found Mercedes manual gearboxes to just feel weird, just feel out of place. The automatics use a new 9-speed box, which you might think is too many cogs, but it works really well. And you've got the paddles behind the steering wheel, so you can change gear manually. It's all very quick to respond. One piece of advice if you're thinking about buying one of these cars, you must go for the premium model or the premium plus if your budget will stretch. Because in those models you get all the extras that one would expect from a Mercedes-Benz. Things like a sunroof, electrically controlled seats. You can even control the passenger side seat from the driver's side. The E-Class is also available as a coupe, a convertible or an estate, and they're all good looking, particularly the coupe. I think the lines of that coupe are just gorgeous. In terms of reliability and servicing, once it's out of warranty, I wouldn't bother taking it back to a Mercedes main dealer. I'd find a good specialist and just stick with them. I always use a Mercedes specialist in Stockport called SPR, who I should really stop promoting because they're always fully booked when I need them. But they are very good and I can honestly recommend them. I'd also recommend filling it up with premium fuel at least every other fill up. It'll just help to keep things running well, keep everything clean. The diesels all use AdBlue, which you fill up in the same place as the diesel. Well, right next door actually. Apart from the odd sensor failing, something like an O2 sensor or a NOx sensor, if you service it well and treat it with respect, it should serve you well. These engines can do lots of miles. Traditionally, the E-Class is one of Mercedes' best-selling models, and you can see why. It's a jack of all trades. They look good as a chauffeur car, taking minor celebrities to the airport. They're used in Berlin as taxis, and they're used in Manchester to take drunken used car dealers home after too much to drink. They're a very well-rounded car, and the interior and exterior of this 5th generation would be enough to tempt me into one. Used prices here in the UK start at around £18,000, but for that you're going to get a high mileage, low spec model. you'll have to spend around £25,000 to get a nice AMG line model in premium spec. And you're going to be talking the best part of £30,000 for a Premium Plus with low mileage. But in my opinion, that's a price worth paying because I could certainly live with this car. It's got an awful lot going for it. Overall, it just feels clever. And I think you'll feel clever for buying one. Well, I think that's about it. You know what I really like about the 213? It still comes with that Mercedes charm and character, but it's just very, very smart. It's very business casual. It's sort of a car for all purposes. So they're the 3 reviews out of the way, which feature 3 separate E-classes from a period of 20 years. You've got the 211, which came out in 2002, all the way up to the 213, which was still in production in 2023. Now, if at this point I've convinced you to buy a cheap E-class, then let's watch this next clip, because this is well, think of it as a cautionary tale. I bought a very cheap 212 E-class, and then spent massively on it. And this is the trouble with buying cheap. You buy cheap, and you buy twice. So if you're looking for an E-class Mercedes, make sure you find a good one. Make sure you find one with good service records, preferably from an elderly owner who hasn't done many miles in it. That's what you're looking for. Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, today you join me as I go to pick up a Mercedes E-Class that I bought for just £4,500. Sounds like good value, this. I bought this from a car trader friend of mine. I think the previous owner's passed away, so it's been parked up for about 6 months. And that's never good news for any car. I know a few things about it. It's a 2012, so that's a W212 model. And because it's a 2012, that'll mean it'll have the Bluetooth audio, which the early models didn't have. I know it's an E250 CDI, which means it'll have the 200 horsepower diesel engine. It's not a bad engine. I know it's a sport model, so it should look the part. It's metallic grey with a black interior, and it's done about 120,000 miles. So it'll probably need a good service. So I'll give it a good engine service, a gearbox service, and whatever else it needs. Being a Mercedes of this era, the fake leather's probably ripped, so I'll have to get that sorted. And what else? If it's got those diamond cut wheels, they'll probably want refurbing. Well, that's about it. And I'm thinking this should be a £6,500, £7,000 car. So there should be a decent profit margin. Anyway, let's go and have a look, shall we? Well, we're here. So far, so good. It's a nice colour, it's a dark metallic grey. It doesn't have the diamond cut wheels, which is probably a good thing. It's got the twin spoke AMG style wheels. That looks pretty good. It's got xenons because I can see the headlamp wash. Although it looks a little bit low on the front end. What do you think? Or high on the back? Or a combination of the two? Looks like I've got a couple of snap springs at the front there. It's very dirty and the inside is steamed up. That looks like a car which has been sat for months and months and months. It wants a set of front reg plates because they're all worn. It needs a good clean and buff. Well, I'm not too disappointed with that, to be honest. The bodywork looks quite tidy. It does need a good buff, actually. There are a few marks on that, but I'm pretty sure they'd come out. Yeah, that's not too bad. Some bird muck on the bonnet. Right, okay then. Let me do a quick vehicle history check. So as always, I'm going to go to Car Vertical. Being a used car dealer, I've used loads of these checks over the years, but genuinely I found Car Vertical to be the most thorough. It's also very easy. So you just go to carvertical.com, type in the vehicle reg, which is Yankee Echo 62, Yorkshire car, Juliet Victor Zulu. Mercedes-Benz of Huddersfield. This is currently checking millions of cars in dozens of countries, and if you want to do one of these checks for yourself, click the link below in the video description, use the promo code HIGHPEAK, and you get 10% off each and every vehicle check that you do. It's important that you do one of these checks before you buy a used car to prevent you buying a complete lemon. It also helps support the channel, so I appreciate that. This is checking to make sure that it's never been involved in a recorded accident, never had a mileage rollback, checking to see if there's any outstanding finance on it, all that sort of stuff. Right, and just like that, the report is ready. May as well turn my engine off, rather than burn through fuel. So that is a Mercedes-Benz E250 CDI sedan. That's the American version, isn't it? Saloon. Right, its mileage is genuine. It's never been stolen, never been involved in any accidents, and there's no outstanding finance, so that's all good. It was registered in the UK in November 2012. Yep, so 62. This is why this is invaluable. Sometimes it shows you the maintenance it's had as well. Now with Mercedes, all their service history is digital, it's all online. So in 2013 it had maintenance, 14 it had maintenance, 15 it had maintenance, in between all that it had MOTs, 16 maintenance, 17 maintenance, 18 maintenance, that's good. The ownership changed in 2018. Oh no, I was going to say I thought the maintenance had stopped then, but it had more in 2019, more in 21. At its last MOT, both rear tyres were close to the legal limit, but it passed, so they were advised. Right, okay, never been stolen. Yep, the mileage is fairly consistent. They're quite decent cars, these. The engine's noisy, that old 2.1 litre diesel, but they are capable of serious mileage. I've been in many of these over the years in Spain, France, Germany as taxis, and most of the time they've done 500,000 kilometres and they're still going. Right, so the equipment that it's got speed sensitive power steering. I don't know if that's standard or not. Sports seats in the front, AMG wheels. It's a 7-speed auto. We've got a cup holder. Oh, hey. And we've got a list there of outstanding recalls, so that's worth checking. Okay, well that's all pretty good, isn't it? Let's go and have a look around it then. See how much work it needs. Okay, then let's let the dog see the rabbit. Very windy today. Well, straight away, what do you think? I think that front end looks very low. That back tyre's low as well. But I think that looks like we've got a cracked spring. It's quite steamy inside, which is never good. Now, these tyres were advised on the last MOT, but I think they've been replaced. The wheels have started to bubble around here, but they're not curbed. The discs, a bit ropey, but I don't think they'd be advised. But if you can, well, you can see all those leaves, this is a car that's been sat for a long time. Needs a good old clean and buff. And it looks like it needs some paint on that back bumper. That's, I don't think that would buff. It might touch in, no, it needs painting. We've got broken paint there, broken paint around the, right, okay. So we need to paint the back bumper, give it a good clean, new set of plates. Plenty of moss growing here, like a petri dish. It's a blue efficiency model, but I think because of its age it won't be Euro 6, will it? It's probably Euro 5. Yeah, it definitely needs front plates. We've got the Xenons. They are quite a good looking car, aren't they? Especially in a good colour. That needs a bit of paint there as well. Caught a curb or something. You could just isolate that area there, so that's not the end of the world. And I suspect this side's gone the same. Yeah, it has. Sticks out quite low, that, doesn't it? Going around this side then, that definitely looks low, doesn't it? That just doesn't sit right at all, does it? And that has got a matching tyre. Oh, the Nexans. They're not too bad. Those brake discs look a bit ropey though. What have we got on the front? Oh, they're new. What brand are they? They are Green Plus by a company called Hilo. Made in China. The hallmark of quality. What about this side? Cheap Chinese tyres on a Mercedes-Benz. Sacrilege, isn't it? Another Hilo. Lovely, lovely. Wheels are quite nice though. Right, well, we've got both sets of keys, which is good. I was a bit reluctant to open. Oh, we've got mould in the boot. I hate it when cars are just left standing. It's never good, is it? Well, there's no water in there, but it does need a good clean. Right. What about inside then? Oh, is that keyless? No? No. Got my hopes up then. Oh dear. Has the seat ripped? Yeah, it has. It normally goes there, where all the person's weight is, rather than here. I'll have to get that repaired. It's got the half leather or Artico, whatever you call it, and the half Alcantara. Part electric seats. Needs a set of mats and a good clean. I like that steering wheel. It's like a sports steering wheel, isn't it? What about in the back? Oh, we've got more mould. You know what, this isn't, without sounding like a wuss, this isn't good for your health, is it, breathing all this in? Gross. Well, we've got a fresh MOT there with no advices. That's always good. Have we got any warning lights on? Let me just shut this door. Don't really want to be in this car.
Tested. And I am certain that Ukraine will rise to the task.
Whose voice is that?
The United States and Europe.
Radio 4. This isn't good for my health. It's Radio 4. So I think it's been an older person. 123 the mileage. 123524. Wait for my glow plug light. Oh, we've got all the warning lights, ladies and gents. So we've got engine light, handbrake. I've cured one. Seatbelt, that'll be fine when I put my seatbelt on. We've got an ABS light on, and traction, that little skiddy light there. Oh, and one up here as well. So ABS and the traction inoperative. Run flat indicator inoperative. What else? And an engine light. Lovely. Well, it's idling okay. We've got heated seats. Got a little button there that drops the headrests. That's all quite neat, isn't it? More mould in there by the looks of it. What about this then? Have we got sat-nav? It says we've got sat-nav. This was the era of those Becker systems. Oh, it does. Right. I was just about to say this is the era of those Becker systems. So, had that not worked, you buy a Becker system for about 100. Oh, there's more mould. 120 quid, and plug it in up there. I've done that countless of times on this era of Mercedes. Right. Service history. Like I say, there won't be a service book as such, because Mercedes-Benz went digital. But we might have some other. Turn my camera away in case I expose some personal details. Right, okay, well that's good. We've got 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, all Mercedes. 2018, an independent, elite independent in Halifax. Okay then, that was done at 56. Right. Then another one, German Auto Cares in Wakefield at 110. German Auto Care Mercedes Specialist, that's good then. And it says the next one is due at 125. Okay then. That was done in October 21. I think probably since, I was going to say since then, but that wouldn't make sense, would it? Maybe 6 months after that. I think it's been stood, lying around. Everything feels damp. This paper here feels damp. That was done in 2020, Richard Street Garage in Bradford. That had a full service, 102. Work carried out. That's cheap. 75 quid. Another one there, 86. Oh, okay, well, I think this has been maintained quite well, hasn't it? Obviously, I'll give it a service, engine service, gearbox service, all that sort of stuff. We've got the old gear lever up here on these. Let's have a look under the bonnet. Where is that, one of these? Never like to see that. My little OBD door is open. Never a good sign, is it? Like someone's plugged it in. Thinking about it, you know, if all the warning lights are on and the car's been sat, that could just be because the battery's low. I'd open the bonnet on an E-Class Mercedes. I can smell marijuana in the air. Someone's having a relaxing day, aren't they? Oh, Jesus. Well, I've just broken the bonnet release. That's not good, is it? Ah, there we go. That needs fixing. Add that to my very long list. Right, well, the gas struts just about work. We've had something nibbling at that. Field mouse, rat, hungry mechanic. It smells quite fumey, but then it is a diesel and they are dirty, aren't they? This just wants a bit of a clean, really. Can't see any obvious leaks. Saying that, it's all covered in plastic, isn't it? So you'd have to have Inspector Gadget's eyes.
Hello.
Right, well I think we could take this for a drive, couldn't we? See how it performs. Maybe I'll take it steady and see if these warning lights go off. Got plenty of diesel, that's good. Right. I think I'm going to take this for a quick clean because I don't want to be in it with it stinking of mould like this. Just noticed there's mould all over the seat belts. Mould on the sun visor. This isn't good for your health, this, is it? Oh, lovely. Look at that. Got mushrooms growing on my seatbelt. Right, change of plan. I'm going to take this for a quick wash without wearing my seatbelt, so I'm not going to record this and incriminate myself, and then we'll take it for a drive when it's all clean. You know, I thought this was a £7 car, but it does need a bit of work. Still telling me my bonnet's open. Right, let me go and wash it and I'll catch up with you later. Right, we're back, and this has been, if I'm being polite, I'll say challenging. If I'm being brutally honest, it's been a complete waste of time, money, and effort. Let me tell you what happened. Everything was going fine. I took it for a wash and got rid of all the mould, and it actually cleaned up all right. Then, when I was on my way to my mechanics, it went into limp mode. I figured it'd be something of nothing because it had been sitting for months, but it turned out to be quite an expensive fix. It ended up needing a new DPF pressure sensor and a new inlet manifold, and that pretty much wiped out all my profits. They did the service and the check over in the MOT, and it's now past its MOT with no advisory items at all, but it did need a new ABS sensor as well. So my bill there was quite long. And to be honest, that just knocked the wind out of my sails and I completely lost interest in it, so it's been down there for several days and I should have been to collect it earlier. Anyway, I eventually did pick it up and I took it to the body shop, and it had its rear bumper painted and those lower parts of the front bumper repainted, and in addition to that it's had a full buff, and now at least it looks pretty good. In fact, it looks the best it's looked for probably 5 years. Even though this is a 10 or 11-year-old car now, I still think it looks quite smart, especially being a sport model with the flat bottom steering wheel and the LED lights and all that sort of stuff. It still has some curb appeal. Then I took it to the trimmers. If you remember, the bolster was quite warm, and now he's done a really good job. It looks like new. If you know where to look, you can tell which panels have been replaced, but over time that should fade. Then I took it to the valeters for a full detail clean. Then I brought it back to work, screwed on some new reg plates, and job done. In a second I'm going to park up somewhere scenic and I'll talk you through my costs. But, quick spoiler alert, I've spent over £2,000 on this car. There really is no such thing as a cheap Mercedes. In fact, there's no such thing as a cheap anything. You really don't want to buy cheap, you want to buy expensive. That's what you want. When you buy something cheap, you just end up inheriting someone's deferred maintenance, then you end up with big bills. Right, anyway, let me go and park up somewhere nice. Well, here we'll do then. There's no particular order with this, but my first bill here is with the trimmer. Now that cost me £170, which I thought was quite good value, really. My next bill was with the paint shop. That was £385. So it has had a repair rear bumper, an offside and near side front bumper corners, repaint rear bumper and bumper corner, wash, clay bar, buff, polish, wax, full vehicle and a general clean. £385. That was well worth the money, to be honest, because now it's transformed. So my bill at my mechanics, or one of my bills, for an ABS sensor and a DPF regen and some labour, that was £203.81. The monster bill at my mechanics was this: oil filter, oil, inlet manifold, DPF pressure sensor, MOT test fee and labour, £1,367.50. Plus the MOT test fee, because that's not VATable, plus the VAT at 20%, so that took my total to 1,633. And that's what completely made me fall out of love with this car. 1,600 quid. There could have been some decent profit in this. It wasn't meant to be, was it? So that takes my total spend to £2,391.81. Actually, no, that's not quite right. We've got number plates on top of that. They were £15 and £50 for a valet. So when you add in the £4,500 that I paid for the car in the first place, my total is 6,956 and 81 pence. I've currently got this car up for sale for 6,995. So if it sells for the asking price, I will make £38. That's well worth the effort and aggravation, isn't it? Oh well, next time I might actually make some money. Right, well, I think that's about it. Somebody here's going to end up with a decent car that I've spent over £2,000 on. By pure fluke, really. Right, well, I think that's about it. So as you can see in that one, I did massively overspend. It needed gearbox mounts, engine mounts, I swapped the wheels and tyres. I spent a fortune on it. Luckily, I sold it for about break even. So I didn't lose a fortune, but still, it was a lesson. I was going to say it was a lesson learned, but it's not really. Hopefully it's a lesson learned for you, but I continue to do this sort of silly stuff every single day of my life. Well, I think that's about it. If you enjoyed this video on the Mercedes E-Class and you'd like me to do the same thing on a different make or model, then let me know in the comments below. But until next time, thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and TikTok. I'll leave the links below. If you're interested in buying a used car, make sure you check it out with Car Vertical and use my promo code HIGHPEAK for 20% off. And I'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.